Hey guys, Richard K from Price Action and Income, and welcome back to another market geometry video to start off this week. Now guys, I hope that you all had a chance to see last week's video where I talked about expanding triangles and how they tend to appear in very volatile markets. So as you all know, things are very volatile at the moment with this pandemic that's going on, a lot of fear in the markets, driving large sell-offs. So it's pretty fitting that we are seeing a lot of expanding triangles that's popping up all over the show and on all different markets, currencies, some of the commodities, especially the currency side. So I've had a great response from even some of my members and some of my YouTube subscribers. And I think a big question that came up was like, if you knew how to trade or get into an expanding triangle, depending on which direction it's obviously going, then where would you ideally set targets? So today I will be elaborating a little bit on the target setting. Setting when you trade expanding triangles, sorry guys, where to set your targets, and I'll be running through a few real examples that we actually traded, and then also a few more examples of expanding triangles that appeared under different conditions. I've also had one of our members ask me to have a look at silver, which is on top of the chart at the moment. We got a silver US dollar spot chart set to a 4-hour chart, and one of my members actually asked me to look at an expanding triangle that he spotted during early 2020, start of the year, in silver, and how I would have traded it, or I believe he actually attempted a trade, actually got into this trade properly, but did not know where to set a target. Now, firstly, guys, this is obviously now after the fact, and I just want to make this perfectly clear that you can get expanding triangles at the end of corrections. They could even be part of a correction, or they could appear towards the end of an actual move. And just keep in mind that expanding triangles, like symmetrical triangles that I explained before in previous videos, tend to be terminal in nature, meaning that they can quite often appear at the end of a correction or at the end of a longer term trend, depending on which time frame you're following. But either way, I would like to set our sights on this formation, or whatever happened in silver here, according to one of our members. Let me just get rid of that red color in the middle. There we go. What happened over here? And if you guys cannot see an expanding triangle, they're quite often not that easy to spot, but if you tend to crunch up your chart quite a lot, they become clearer. You see, this sort of mess that's happened over here was definitely an expanding triangle. Now, just to zoom into price action a little bit better, price obviously after this ended, after this messy action here, this volatile expanding triangle ended in this low over here. One made another high and we had a huge sell-off, which also just lends to the fact or the phenomena that these triangles appeared towards the end of a move, which was an end move here, and it also appeared before a final top came in and price starts selling off. Let me just get rid of this box here. So my member actually was really good at identifying an expanding triangle here. But in this case, this triangle was part of a correction, and not easy to see. It takes a lot of practice, but I'm going to try to just show you how you can still use market geometry, especially your pitchfork, to set targets. And now, since this is after the fact, we could easily see that the expanding triangle shape took hold and obviously ended here. So you want to draw your triangle so where that you can do a lower support trend line and upper resistance trend line in this situation. Let me just get my marking tool out. As you all know, expanding triangles run in 5 waves. So wherever this started from, it couldn't have started from here because it will be an A, B, C, D. There are 5 waves in the triangle. So it must have started from here. So this was the origin of where this actual triangle started from. So it must have been an A, B, C, D, E. Not a pretty looking triangle. Again, not easy to see if you were looking at expanded your chart too much. Either way, if you looked at a more crunched up chart, again, for me, this is after the fact. But well done for this guy that actually seen this triangle. It was easier to see when you crunch your chart up a little bit. Sorry, guys. And then just to get back to the question, and also showing you a few cool things about expanding triangles. If you look at a MACD, I'll get to that a little bit later. I would consider, since this was a new high, that we actually had an A, B, C. So correction, simple A, B, C, where your actual B and your C wave ended as part of an expanding triangle. So more of a complex pattern. But what's really important to see over here is that when you look at your MACD, you'll quite often find that your MACD histogram, not the actual trigger lines, will also expand in the triangle, which is a very common fact. It does happen quite a bit, and this raises the probability that you're also dealing with the expanding triangle. So that's something that definitely showed up over there. So now the question was, if you correctly sort of could have predicted this high where the E wave ended before the C wave ended this larger complex correction, how would you find the end, or set a target if you were thinking that it's going to go down? In this case, trading during a correction, but as we all know, we can't always say, are we dealing with a correction? But this is what's important, knowing where to set targets. So hopefully I can answer this question. So if we use a pitchfork, as you all know, I like using, and you use the preceding move from where this triangle started from, the expanding triangle. And you want to use the origin of where this started from as your second anchor point, and then extend it to your E wave. Then you'll see that this correction, in this case, we wouldn't have known as correction, again, after hindsight. You could have set a target if you were targeting at least another move lower. It could have been set at the lower median line of a shift pitchfork. This is quite important. If we used a original pitchfork, then price wouldn't have reached there. That's why it's quite important to always use a shift pitchfork so that you can be sure that there's a high probability that price will at least reach an angle that's not as sloped or as steep as a standard pitchfork would be. In this case, if you would have entered here, even if you place a stop over there, you would have had a decent, at least more than a 1 or 2 to 1 return on this trade. And this is how you could have set your target over here. Again, just a cool fact that a lot of times you'll find expanding triangles also have an expanding MACD histogram between their waves. So this was quite a complex correction to have dealt with. Let's move on to another example. We got this Euro CAD, for example. This is an actual trade that we were following with our EPS members. If you're interested in our system and how we do trade using market geometry and price patterns, then please have a look at the bottom of this video. In the description, you'll find links to take you to 2 pages where we could show you a little bit more about what we do and how we trade these patterns. But anyway, we had this crazy mess in the EuroCAD for a long period of time. I was of the opinion that there was some sort of an ending diagonal going on here prior to this actual expanding triangle that we had over here. And as soon as price broke down, we missed this trade. It was just too messy for us. But around about the beginning of this year, we start seeing this expanding behavior going on in the EuroCAD. And we actually managed, way before price actually moved into this high, to identify a zone. And price actually overshot this zone. This is a very common thing that you'll see in expanding triangles. They do tend to even overshoot your upper support or resistance lines as well. So we just take a note of that. But in either case, we could also see the same thing happen here on our MACD histogram. Price, as it went up and down, expanded, which is behavior that expanding triangles do when you look at momentum. And in my case, I like using the MACD histogram. Let me just quickly label that again. So this was the origin. You'll label it counter trend A, B, I think this was C, D, E. We labeled it something like that. And how you could have set your targets in this case, again, is by looking at a previous high. In this case, just using that one over there. We can just use that. We use our origin low. We started off this triangle and we projected to the top of the E wave. And look how beautifully this whole move to the downside terminated at the low red warning line of this pitchfork. And this is a shift pitchfork, sorry guys. So if I were to switch this to a standard pitchfork, then in this case this drop was so low, so steep that it also ended at the lower median line of a standard pitchfork. So that's just a good way of how to set your targets, especially when you think you've dealt with an E wave and whether it's part of a correction or the end of the move type of move. Here we have a very beautiful example of how a triangle was a terminal correction prior to an important low before price just shot up, in this case, to the upside again. And then finally, the Euro-US dollar, which is a trade that I'm still following. I'm just terribly confused as to which way to label this actual trade. But I'm thinking that we might even have had end of an E wave either over here with the terminal end of a long-term move, and we might be going up now. Or we have an E wave that ended over here, and now we're going up again. Either both ways, I'm bullish this market. I'm just not entered it yet. There's quite a few things that still need to happen. But what is important and quite interesting about this trade as well is that if you use this previous move into this low that I believe started off this pattern and you expand it to, if this was an E wave, then look where support came in at this lower red median line of the standard pitchfork. And let me just switch that to a shift pitchfork just to show you guys something. Although it stopped here at a low red warning line, when you are dealing with market geometry, especially pitchforks, you want to slope it into the direction where you think a low was. In this case, these lines are showing upward, which is not something you want. You want a termination to happen at an area that's sloping into the direction that you've seen a low, for example. In this case, price did not manage to break through. Well, it broke through, but it couldn't close below this lower median line of the standard pitchfork. So guys, what I'm trying to say is that we could probably have seen a low here with an A, B, C, D, E, and we've already had a termination here with price going up already again, or we are dealing with something else. Maybe we had an E wave here and price going up. But either way, both counts sort of shows that the Euro-US dollar can go higher. And also bear in note that if this was some sort of E wave, that we could still be doing this A, B, C, another low before we'll go up. But we either have an important low in place or prices going up higher. And if we just quickly, lastly, bring up our, let me just bring up my MACD again. Then you'll see that we have the same phenomena happening here. Whether this was our original starting point, but we definitely are seeing the MACD histogram expanding as well. So definitely an expanding triangle of some sort. Is just trying to figure out on which side of this market we have to try to get into right now. And guys, just before I finish off the video, there's another technique I like using when you're dealing with expanding triangles, especially if you want to find entries into a market. So I still consider this to be as the origin as this expanding triangle, whether it's going up or it still needs to go down before it ends. this is not what I really want to be showing you now. I just want to show you another cool phenomenon that happens when you're dealing with expanding triangles. So I quite like using a parallel channel, and I just want to take this magnet mode off, and I want to start at the high where I believe this originated from. I want to draw as the line, or the upper channel line in this case, as horizontal as I can, and then project it to the low end of where I believe the second wave came in after this first wave up, after the origin move. And let me just get rid of these red lines and show you something really cool. So when you expand the same channel that you used there and copy and paste it and expand it to the upside, let's just do one more again. And let's do the same going downwards. Then you'll quite often find that you use the starting point. Remember, in this case, we used that as our first move up, that as our first move lower, and then running our horizontal channels and copying and pasting them and adding them to the top and to the bottom. Then you'll quite often find that the center channel lines and the upper median or upper channel lines, sorry guys, or low channel lines. I get so confused sometimes with working with market geometry as to which exact names I must be using. But anyway, channel lines in this case, you'll see that how price tends to respect the center channel lines and the upper channel lines and low channel lines, depending on which way you go. In this case, it respected the center there. It overshot the upper, and it couldn't break through the central channel line again. As price came down again, it respected the low channel line over here, came slightly upwards again, but found support at the lower channel line again, and has since been breaking up and down here. So in my opinion, if price starts breaking above this center channel line again, this is almost like my point of control, as some traders would call it, or my center balancing point of this entire expanding triangle, or proposed expanding triangle that I'm proposing at the moment. As soon as price breaks up here, then we might get the next move to the upside. But anyway, guys, there's just a few extra techniques that you can use when dealing with expanding triangles, either using channels to see how price tends to expand and end at either channel lines, center channel lines, and also using your MACD, which is also a great indicator, your MACD histogram, sorry, to show you how the MACD histogram expands, and then obviously also using your pitchforks to use over your expanding triangles to figure out where you can set your targets, as I explained in this previous example on silver. In this case, it was just a correction, a triangle as part of a correction. On the Euro CAD, lower median line, I know we also used a shift, and that caught the lower red warning line of a shift pitchfork. If you were able to get into E-waves, these are great places to place your targets, as long as you use the correct pivots or anchor points when you use your pitchfork. In this case, a previous high followed to the origin of where your triangle started to the end of where you believe your triangle was, and then you can target these lower median lines or lower red warning lines, depending on what angle or slope you're using or setting you're using on your pitchforks. Okay, guys, and thanks for that member for providing me with those questions. I hope it clears things up. Also quite educational to show you guys how we can be dealing with expanding triangles. Now they tend to materialize in volatile markets like we are seeing right now, and how you can use different indicators or market geometry lines or even your channels to see how these things tend to expand. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. We'll be back next week with another video. If you haven't done so before, then please hit the like, subscribe button, hit the notification button to be alerted next time we do another video. And I hope you guys are all keeping safe and that you're still healthy. Just be note that this will all pass one day, and that I just hope that you guys are keeping safe. Like I said, guys, I'll be back next week again. Until next time, have a great day. Goodbye.